You're listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast, with your hosts, Danny and Kaylee. Hey guys, and welcome to Zap Night. I'm your host, Danny, and Kaylee is still out for a little while longer. I'm trying to coax her into doing some more video games here soon. So today I have a special guest with me, a good friend of mine, Don.
Thank you.
So this is the 16th episode, and we are playing Mario 64. So what's your experience with Mario 64?
It's one of my favorite games for the console, which is why I wanted to give it a go this go around. It's different replaying it now, though. I mean, it was really strange.
Is it still your favorite game after you've replayed it?
It actually is, but from a different perspective.
Sure.
Like, you know, when I first went through it years and years and years ago, like, it was so open-ended, and I spent so much time going through stuff. I was able to run through it, a grand total, in probably, like, a week now, because I knew everything that I had from, 20 years past.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, no, still a great game.
I had never picked it up before. I didn't have it growing up. So what little bit I did play was from other people's houses and, spending the night at friends and stuff. So it was like I barely got through the first couple couple levels. Playing it again, we'll get into it, but
sure.
it wasn't easy.
No,
it wasn't easy.
Yep.
So let's kind of talk about the development a little bit. This was developed by Nintendo, and it was actually the release game for the 64. So it came out the same time the 64 was released.
Yep.
That was in June of 1996 in Japan, and then in September 1996 in the US. I believe they pretty much sold out. Like, as Nintendo does, they just sell straight out, and...
I was a launch day adopter.
Really?
I actually... long story short, traded in like every video game console I had up until that point. My Genesis, my Nintendo, my Game Boy, everything at GameStop, so that I could get an N64 at launch day. And this was definitely the title that I wanted to play. Wow. So I started right from day one.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The game spent the first years in development as Mario FX, and it was actually originally developed for the Super Nintendo. But with the 64 right around the corner, the development team changed their mind and switched everything over to the 64. And I think that they were planning on using that FX chip that is in a lot of the Super Nintendo games.
Sure. Yeah, Star Fox.
At the very end of the Super Nintendo era.
Yep.
So the story is pretty general, as a Mario game usually is. You start off in the castle, and Peach invites you to the castle to have some cake. And once you get to the castle, you find out that Bowser has taken the princess and has...
Oh no, really?
Taken over...
The princess is missing yet again?
It's amazing, right?
Wow.
You would think that she would figure it out. So the castle is completely taken over by enemies and Goombas and turtles and everything else under the sun. And it's Mario's job to defeat Bowser and get the princess back. Pretty normal for a Mario game.
Yep.
So what I did kind of like about the story was that there was somewhat of a push to a story. Mario World and Mario World 2 had it there, but I think this one pushed it a little bit further than the other games did, so that's kind of nice. There's not much to say about story. I gave it a 6 out of 10 just because it was there.
Yeah, and maybe I was a little harsher. Yeah, this is the first time you've asked me to review anything, so I went pretty low. Like, I gave it a 2 out of 10.
No, that's fair.
And the only reason I did was because it's the same story that we've had all along. The princess is missing. We need to go save her.
Yeah.
But the other part that really, from a story perspective, like... From someone who's beat the game like numerous times over and over again the last 20 years, it doesn't exist throughout the gameplay. So as you go from level to level, as part of the open world like expansiveness, you can go anywhere. They don't feed you anything in order to, oh hey, I need to go here and do this, or there's no side quest, or there's no, like, you don't get nuggets to like push you along the way. It's like level completed, and then you can go to whatever level you want whenever you want, and like, nothing gets revealed to you. So from a story perspective, I think they did that on purpose so that it did feel more open world and you could go wherever you wanted to go. But from a story perspective, spoiler alert, like, you save the princess.
Right, yeah.
I
struggle with this category in these games that don't have much of a story because in like this game, the story is your experience.
Correct.
You know, and I fully understand that, but like you said, there really isn't much there. And they don't give you anything throughout the game. It's like a little bit at the beginning and a little bit at the end, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'll back that up to say it doesn't really detract from the gameplay per se.
Sure.
But if you're the type of gamer, and I've known several throughout the years, where you want to get immersed in a deep story and understand plot lines and characters, and you're playing the game to learn the story, this would not be the game for you. But like every other Mario title, if you enjoy Mario games, even the side-scrollers and the older ones that, you know, story's not important, it still makes it a fun game to play without the story there.
Sure.
Yeah, not much for story.
All right, so moving on to the graphics, it's a beautiful game.
Yeah, it is.
And it's fairly clean compared to a lot of even future 64 games.
I would agree.
There are a few downfalls that I had. A lot of the textures were super flat.
They are.
The walls are... It's like they give it some sort of texture, but when you really look at it, it looks flat. It's like there are lines in there to make it look like brick isn't fooling anybody.
No.
But the enemies looked really good. Everybody moved fairly well. The 3D aspect worked really good. But the camera sucked really bad. I fought with the camera probably this whole game.
Sure.
I don't know. They did everything they could to make this game look as good as it could be when it came out.
They did. And if you look back at the history of the game, Nintendo had challenges right out of the gate. Because they decided to keep the 64 a cartridge-based system, they couldn't add immersive graphics like their competitor with, you know, Sony with CD-based games were doing.
Sure.
And we'll get to that a little later, even with the audio. Like, you couldn't bring that to the game table. So, speaking to your flat graphics, I don't know if you noticed, but, like, when you would run up on a tree, if you decided to run around the tree, you would move around the tree, but the tree doesn't actually spin.
Yeah.
You know, the tree stays in front of you, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm running around a tree, but the tree is actually not moving. And it was a trick that they used to keep from having to render, you know, extra sprites as you were moving around in the open world, and it cut down on processing and what they actually had to store on the cartridges in order to make it work. So it was pretty cool. I mean, from day one, you know, going back, and this is 20-year-old, you know, Don launched it, like, it was pretty wild, like running around and seeing Mario in a 3D platform. My initial impression was, oh wow, he looks weird, because like it wasn't like a round cap, it was like a hexagon cap.
Well, when you're looking at it from the first time seeing a 3D rendered game, I could see where that would be foreign.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with the Nintendo stuff, but I was very familiar with the 3D of the PlayStation. So, like I said, I never really had a 64 growing up, so I'd missed that generation there.
Yeah.
And so, looking back at the graphics, it didn't really surprise me any, but I could see where seeing those graphics for the first time would be really weird.
Yeah, and I had a PlayStation 2 back in the day, but I had gotten it after my 64, so I kind of cut my teeth on the 64. PlayStation definitely had, you know, a better product in the day, no doubt about it. Yeah. They sold more units, and, you know, it was a better deal, but Super Mario 64 is still a great game, and, you know, I mean, as far as, like, the colors and the different characters that they put in, I mean, even from level to level, the attention to detail and how they flesh things out, I mean, for me anyway, it's pretty cool. You know, you had a lot of depth within each level, but then as you would go to a new level, it's like, oh, wow, this is, you know, all underworld or underwater. And
yeah. I really liked how they took the 2D Mario and made it 3D without it getting too weird. Correct. It really looked like the Mario World art design.
Absolutely. And
took that and just made it 3D, and you could see it. You could see clear as day that it was a Mario game. I would say you could take any screenshot of that world, any color palette, and you would know that's a Mario game.
Absolutely. The other thing that was kind of interesting is, like, even from a boss perspective, at the end of the first level, when you're fighting the, you know, Turtle Goomba, or not Goomba, Koopa, I think is the correct name.
Sure,
Turtle shells, right? Whatever. He's huge. You know, compared to you, you're like, oh, wow. Like, in the side-scroller games, like, they were always smaller than you. You know, like, you could stomp on them and grab their shells and throw them, and they had smaller versions that you'd find throughout the levels, and, you know, you could ride on their shells and stuff. But to see
that
one as
first
a boss, like, you're like, oh man, he's massive. You know? So it was pretty exciting.
So what'd you give it for graphics?
On graphics, I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I did too, yeah.
So I was a little bit harsh there, but again, if you're comparing it to its PlayStation rivals, I mean, nothing really beat that back in the day. I mean, that was the bar that everybody was shooting for.
Well,
and, they came close, but,
Looking at it, the future games that came out on the 64, this really was what those games modeled after.
Absolutely.
And you can see that not only in gameplay, but the graphics too, where the graphics are basically this, but a little bit better. Banjo-Kazooie looks way better than this game, and it plays better too. But
I would agree.
So gameplay, this will be the longest topic.
Sure.
Because there was a lot of gameplay in here, and I struggled with a lot of it.
Yep.
There's a steep learning curve. And I think that was right out of the gate, my first couple levels, trying to figure out just how to control Mario in general was so difficult. But slowly, level by level, I finally started to figure it out. And what's cool about this game is the replay value of each level.
Absolutely.
Because you can get super far, and then you have to replay it again. So then, I'm going back to these first levels, and I'm breezing through it. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot easier than it was when I first started.
Exactly.
I really struggled with the controls pretty much the whole time. The camera just didn't want to stay still.
Were you messing around with the camera buttons to try to work it to your advantage?
I used the C controls like I would the second analog stick.
Yeah, and that's how it honestly should be done. It does take, to your point, a learning curve to understand how to do it. But from someone who's played the game for 20 years, you understand where the cameras go, and I'll be just running and mashing camera buttons as I go to get the camera to turn, because I know I'm getting ready to turn left, so I want the camera to pan left with me as I go so that I don't have to wait for the camera to turn when I turn. And mastering the camera controls is almost another skill set that's required if you're going to be successful in the game, especially when you get into farther levels. As you get into boss levels, it is way harder to try to go left over a small, narrow bridge using an analog stick than it is to pivot the camera so that Mario's facing straight up and to just run straight across the bridge.
Yeah.
Because you get to going wonky if you're left and right and sideways. The next thing you know, you've fallen off. Yeah. You're back to the bottom of the level and you got to start over again. So
I was finding that some of those boss levels, it was easier to do like a 2D Mario effect where you would turn sideways so that Mario's running, right or left. Correct. Instead of, not using the 3D aspect of it.
Yep.
There was also the bosses themselves. There was maybe a few bosses in each level, but the Bowser boss at the end of each, I guess you could call them worlds.
Yeah.
It was like the same boss battle.
Correct.
And I thought that was stupid. That was...
Yeah, there's a little bit lacking there, because you get through the first Bowser and you're like, did I just beat the game? What happened? I just fought Bowser and I beat him, and it wasn't too hard once you figure out what you needed to do.
Right, yeah.
If you've never played the game,
there was a lot
20
of
year ago, Don, you're like, okay, what do I do? You're looking for rocks to throw, or you're looking to, and there's nothing. You're on this open platform, and you're trying to run around him to grab his tail to, throw him. You're like, okay, now I get what's going on. But then you have to do that again and again and again.
Until you figure out that, you got to hit him, throw him on a bomb, and
Correct.
then you actually do damage to him.
Yep. Then it's even repetitive. I think it was their attempt at, you learning a skill and then repeating said skill. But It did get a little repetitive. It was like, okay, I'd really like to learn a different pattern, or with your typical Mario games.
Right.
I mean, even in Super Mario 1, the end of each level, the Bowser didn't spit fire in the same pattern. He started to jump. You're like, okay, now we have another layer of complexity that we have to address, right? So, but no, not so much here.
What did you think about all the different puzzles?
So for me, and I don't know if folks have played this before, but it's a little strange. If I could, just to give a little backstory on how it works. I mean, I don't remember specifically how many levels there were, because this
15.
gameplay through, I didn't play all the levels. Yeah. I got, what I needed to do to beat it, but... Each level essentially has 8 quests, and you can get 8 stars in each level. So you complete the level, you grab a star, and then they throw you out of the level, and you can hop right back into the same level. And in the beginning, you have to do that until you've accumulated enough stars. But once you've accumulated enough stars, you can essentially unlock other doors in the castle and go to other worlds. You don't have to find all 8 stars in each level. You can come back to them at any point in time and do them in any order that you want to do them in. So it added, from a gameplay perspective for me, additional layer of that true expansive, I can go anywhere at any time I want to, within reason. I mean, you had to meet certain criteria to make it happen, but...
I liked that aspect of not having to do... You didn't have to perfect 100% every single level.
No.
You can make it through... I think you only need 70 stars at the end of the game. So
correct.
I was getting to the point where it's like, okay, I only need like 5 more stars. What can I do that, is easy, that I can just get a couple stars?
Well, and when you get farther in the game, there's certain stars you can't get until you've gone to other levels and unlocked like red switches or green switches to give Mario additional abilities. Like, so for example, in one of the underwater levels, there's a star visible to you right from the beginning, but it's in a updraft, and you cannot swim through the updraft until you've gone to a future level and unlock the switch that gives Mario the metallic ability, which sinks him directly to the bottom of the pool, and you just walk in and grab it. It's one of the easiest stars to get, but you have to get it in a particular order.
Right.
So for me, that adds to the gameplay value. So, rewinding the clock 20 years, I put so many hours into this game because they give you no direction from the beginning. You're just thrown into this world. You have to run around and figure it out on your own. So, like, number of hours of gameplay was just massive up there. The learning curve, like, at the beginning of each level, when you hop, back into the painting to start the level, they give you a topic or a hint as to what you're supposed to do. To say it's a sentence is an overstatement. It's like 3 or 4 words, blast to the top of the mountain. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
I had one that was break a wall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean break a wall?
It's cake if you know which wall you need to break and how to do it. Yep. Did you ever figure it out?
I did. Yeah. But I was shooting into every single wall within range.
Yep.
And eventually I broke the first wall and it didn't do anything. And I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be another wall that I can break. But yeah, I did eventually get that one.
Yeah. No, and it adds to the gameplay for me. Now, again, when I went back, I was able to blast through, I think, the first 3 levels in probably 30 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, completing all 8 stars and building up my star bank. Because I remembered all the puzzles and where I needed to go. So you just start hammering them out. And I wasn't even completing them in the order that was suggested. So that's the other thing is, you get the first star and you hop back into the same painting and, they give you a tip on what to get. But if you accidentally stumble upon a star, let's say out of order, and you grab it, it'll complete star 7 ahead of time. You don't have to do them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So as I remembered and I was going back and replaying, it's like, oh, I'm not going to do that one. That one was kind of difficult. I'm just going to go up here and grab this one because I know where it's at.
Yeah.
So, but you don't know that the first time going through the game. So you're just using the hint that you're provided to try to figure out what you need to do.
Right. And that's where I was. I was blank slate, walking into this. I spent so much time trying to figure out. I didn't even know that you could collect 100 coins until I accidentally did it.
Yep.
And I'm like, wait, I get a star for doing this? And then I had to go back and play all those again.
Yep.
Again, adding to the replay value, extending the game's overall time.
Yep.
I calculated about 13 hours playing this game.
Yeah, once I got up into the higher levels, I mean, they definitely do increase in complexity, and they take more time and skill to run through them. You're not just gonna... I've watched speedruns online, and guys just like blasting through the last level in 5 minutes, and it's like, I could not control Mario well enough to make that happen, even to get to the boss in that amount of time.
Yeah.
I don't play it enough.
I think I managed to get 2 or 3 stars in every world.
Sure.
And once I did that, I was happy. I'm like, okay, I played them all at least once through.
To make some of that a little simpler, too, like each level has the 8 red coins challenge.
Right, yeah.
And once you figure that out, it's like, oh, so as you start to see red coins, now if I map out and remember where those are at, I know that's going to be coming up, right? Start to grab those, and as you complete them, it kind of cross another one off the list sort of thing.
So what didn't you like about this game? Gameplay wise.
So it's the double-edged sword. Like, from a bad perspective, like not being provided any instructions at all from the beginning. You're just dropped into this immersive world and go. Like, you can run wherever you want to run. And it's how they wanted the game to be. But it does really add to the length of time that it's going to take to beat the game, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It might have been nice to, have been given some text if you ran into, let's say, a friendly person in the world that may have given you a hint as to where you needed to be, or even a simple sentence of, oh, hey, I saw a star up on, Toad could have easily, and he does,
Yeah.
throughout the game, try to help you.
Or just straight up hands you a star. Here,
Exactly.
I found this.
You're like, oh, hey, I talked to Toad and got a star.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. All right, kind of segueing from this, but it's still in the gameplay section. Were you able to find any of the castle's secret stars? Because outside of the levels themselves, there's actually secret stars within the castle.
Right,
So, like,
yeah,
when you
okay,
get to
so
certain sections...
I opened up I did hit the switches for the red switch and the green switch.
Sure.
And the ghost switch. Where was that, blue?
Yep.
So I did those, and I found one that was in the, like, Peach room, the Princess Peach room. There was one in there. So I think it's in the list, right? I think I found like 10.
Sure.
10 of the secret stars.
Yeah, like, so the one that's most predominant that most people get first is once you've unlocked so many stars, you see this, like, sunburst shining down in the middle of the castle, and you're like, what is this? And you have to use the camera angles to actually look up at it. Well, as soon as you do, you're dropped into this other world. Now you're flying, and you're like, what's going on? Like, you're free-falling to your death.
Right, yeah, that's exactly what it seemed like.
You're no stopping it, right? And it's going to take a couple of times of going through it to figure it out, but then you eventually unlock a switch and get a star, and yeah, hey, you've unlocked one of the castle's secret stars, and you're like, okay, now there's like this additional layer to the onion, if you will, of how many other stars have I missed or, have I not gotten? So from a replay value, lots of, digging, because you can go back and get stars that you haven't gotten that you know about, because we know there's 8 in each level, but now you'll just be poking around in a world to try to find secret stuff that, could potentially be there if you're a true completionist. It's absolutely doable, and it's not, like, frustratingly doable. I think they hit a pretty good balance there, but...
So, I thought there was 7 in each level.
There could be 7.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong on my numbers.
Am I...
What? You only did 7 of the 8?
Because it gave me maybe, I don't know, does it give you an extra star if you complete them all?
No,
I don't know.
No. My number could be completely off.
There's 6 challenges, and then there's the extra star for the 100 coins. So I think that there's 7.
Correct.
So, okay, that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait a minute, if there's another one.
No, yeah, I'm just...
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that I had to go back into each world after collecting a star. That was so frustrating.
Why?
Just because I know that there's one over there, but you
wanted to go to a different level.
Well, no, not necessarily. Just within the same level, to get a second star, to get multiple stars, you had to play the level all over again.
Yep.
And it was so frustrating because every time that I would get 1 star, all the enemies would respawn. Everything starts over again. It's like, crap. So now I gotta do other things again. So then, it becomes a challenge in itself to plan which stars you're gonna get and in which order. Now, the coin star, you get lucky because you don't have to restart over again.
Sure.
But why not do that for all of them?
Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah. So as you're starting to figure it out, it's like, I got thrown out of the painting. Let me see if I can hop back in. And then you do, and you're like, oh, hey, there's another quest. So you start doing that over and over again for the first, I would say 2 to 3 levels. But then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you've unlocked enough stars and another door in the castle open. You're like, oh, I want to go check that out because I'm tired of, So as you start to move around, like, it definitely helps with that fatigue of having to... But I could totally see... Even for myself, I'm like, I got to grind through, like, the first level or 2 to get enough stars to get to some of the funner levels.
I wanted to get through all the stars in the first couple levels, so it's like this constant run and get a star, restart the level.
Yep.
Run and get a star, restart the level. And it just gets... There's a bit of a repetitiveness to it.
There is.
And it's... I don't know. It dropped my score a little bit for that.
Did you find the challenges within each of the levels were unique enough, though, to keep you... intrigued? Like, when you went back into a level, was the level different enough now that you had to unlock a different area of the level or go into a different place, or it was like, okay, this is new, like, this wasn't here before?
Yeah.
Like, even in the first level, you can't talk to a Babam until I think you're 3 or 4 stars in, but all of a sudden you have cannons that you can use that'll get you to, like, floating islands that, you were not, like, well, I didn't even think there were, So they tried to add some depth to it, but your point's totally justified.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I did appreciate that you could go in and see different stuff each time. And the fact that there was still, when you first start off and you get the first star, it's like, okay, I got my star. oh wait, now there's more. Well, I didn't see any more.
Exactly.
So then you got to go and hunt them down.
Yep.
And that's part of the fun too. The wing cap was cool. They made it like this huge deal. Oh, we got all these cool new superpowers. That's awesome. But it was a pain in the butt to actually use.
Sure.
And it wasn't in very many levels.
No.
And it's like, again, going back to, this is a Mario game. They have it on the cover of the game.
They do.
So just, put it in a few more levels. It would have made it just that much better, to make it more iconic for this game to be, this is a wing cap game,
So again, to tie retro back to new, like if you didn't like it in Super Mario 64, then you're probably really not going to like Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch, which is scheduled to release at the end of this year because they're bringing the cap back and, again, all sorts of cool new superpowers that we can use with the cap. Right. So they're kind of bringing back, right, in the new stuff, what they were doing in the old. And I think, even looking at the older side-scrollers, Mario 1, Mario 2, not so much, but even in Super Mario 3, like, the Tanuki suit was, like, huge. Like, Mario can turn into a raccoon and he can fly. Like, oh my lord. Like, but to your point, it was in all the levels for the most part. Like, if you could find it, it was like, all right, now I'm on fire. You can't stop me because now I got my tail.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm saying.
It wasn't
they're
there.
super iconic in each game, and this one just didn't. It was there and it was cool, but they just didn't have it enough.
Yeah, it did fall a little flat. I'm with you there.
I loved all the different moves that Mario could do. The back jumps and the side jumps and the wall jump, I think, was a new concept.
Absolutely.
And the level design really played on that. Where
it did.
There were some stars you couldn't do unless you mastered the wall jump or mastered the back jump.
Correct.
There was one towards the very end where you had to, there was a wall jump, there was a back jump, like a full jumping puzzle that you had to do to get to the star. And I loved that one.
Yep. It can be frustrating too, though.
It's frustrating, but it's not like life ending.
Oh
frustration.
No!
You didn't have to start the level all over again just to play. There was a little bit of forgiveness there where you could if you fall, you got to start the puzzle over again.
Yep.
I had a lot of fun doing those.
I would agree. How did you rate overall gameplay?
I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Again, only because if the camera was a lot better, and maybe put the Mario wing cap in there a little bit more, I would have given it a 10.
Sure.
But yeah.
I guess I'm a softie. This is my favorite category. I went 10 out of 10.
Sure.
There's a lot of longevity in this game. And again, if you're a completionist, and I don't consider myself a completionist by any means. I'm not the type who'll grind through a game just to get a bunch of new weapons or inventory. But I've beat this game so many times that it definitely was on my punch list of I got to get all the stars and figure out where all this stuff's at. And I've done it a couple of different times.
Yeah.
And it takes me, months to, refigure out where everything was. And it's like, oh man, this one was tough back then. Where's this at?
Well, you got 15 levels and, 7 stars in each level. It becomes challenging.
Yeah, I've done it. Lots of longevity. And it's from a replay value. For me, a lot of the games today don't have a lot of replay value. Once you've gone through them and you've learned the super immersive story, I'm not going... I know the story. I'm not going to replay it again. There's no value in it.
Right.
I could pick this game up any day of the week and start grabbing stars and rerunning around the world and, just having fun. So
yeah, absolutely. I think the hardest part for me in this whole game, the hardest part was the learning curve.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not easy to get up and rolling with it.
I actually had the camera angle control on one of my positives. Now, again, it wasn't as smooth as it could have been. And I could be completely wrong here. But from my perspective, it's the first time that I was able to actually control the camera angles and move the camera angle around to my advantage so that I could make it easier for me to complete said quest or said level.
Yeah.
It did require some additional skill to learn, and it was kind of clunky because as you hit the C buttons, it moves, quarter turn in each direction. It's not hold it down and pan it to exactly where you want it and let it go. It's hit the button once and it's going to move a particular chunk, and maybe you had to move Mario a quarter turn and then hit the camera again to get it lined up exactly how you wanted. So I agree. it wasn't perfectly smooth, but from a player control perspective, like being able to control the camera and maneuver that through the levels was positive for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the game at its time, it's awesome. It's a completely different, completely new concept. But for me, going through and playing the game, it was so frustrating.
And 20 years ago, me was in the same boat. I'm what is this? Like, it was, for sure.
So let's talk about the music a little bit. Now, music, not just the music itself, but like the sound effects too.
Sure.
The music is very memorable. I enjoyed pretty much every level. I did notice that it repeated a little bit in the later levels, and that was okay, but it really turned this game into a instant classic soundtrack.
Absolutely.
I mean, you hear any one of these levels at any point, and it's like, that's Mario 64.
Yep. Yeah, and for me, like, one of the biggest things was the audio and the music for me really added to the levels themselves. Like, the biggest example I can give is when you get dropped in a water level, right from the beginning, like, you fall out of the sky and you end up in water, and the audio itself, I mean, is it parallels you being in a water level.
Sure.
It just submerses you, for lack of a better term, and, oh, hey, I'm supposed to be swimming, or it puts you into the world that you're in. So the soundtracks really overlay well with the levels. I think they did a pretty good job of hitting that on the head.
I like that there was a little bit of voice acting. For most of us, this was the first time you've heard Mario. And again, this is Mario's voice now. I mean, you can't really change Mario's voice anymore.
No.
Like, especially after this game came out, it's like all you have now is this iconic Mario voice.
Yep.
And they've laid it out through the rest of the games, which I really like. I like that they put Peach's voice in there too.
Well, a
little bit,
You put the cartridge in, you turn the game on, and you better just sit back for 3 minutes and wait for the intro to roll, Yeah. Peach is reading you the letter, inviting you to the castle, and you're like, what? I don't know. It's kind of on the downside for me too. Like, there's not enough of that in this game. Like, I mean, it really, if they would have brought that to this game, I think it just would have been killer. I mean, as far as scores and stuff go, it would have just put it off the charts, but cartridge-based system, we don't have room to store all those, so they were very selective, and you don't get enough of that, in my opinion.
You don't, but the fact that it's in there at all
it was great, but
what makes it.
When you get it right out of the gate, and like that's the first thing, like a minute into you haven't even started, and you're hearing like the voice acting, I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then afterwards, when you're having to read every screen again, I'm like,
true.
Oh, like where did it go?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it's not like, I don't know, it's not an epic score. Like, I'm not going to, when I say score, I don't mean like the score I gave it. I mean like a
audio
musical score, audio score. Yeah. I mean, it's not as memorable as some of other games that I've played, like, like say Final Fantasy VII. I mean, that's just, for me, mind-blowing. Like, it was,
absolutely.
The music was epic in that game. And this, not so much. I mean, it's your typical,
It's very typical
Nintendo Mario score. But it's new enough to where it's not like, oh, hey, we're using the same old stuff again.
Yeah.
They did put some effort into it, so.
Yeah, they changed it up without losing the Mario feel to it. One of the downfalls that I had, apart from it being slightly repetitive between the different levels, is that the tracks seem really short. So within the same level, you would hear the same song over and over and over and over again.
You did, and some of that... So again, two different takes. 20 years ago, me, same boat. Yeah. Me now, because I'm blasting through the levels and I know where I need to be going, I'm not getting to the point where those tracks are, because I'm just grinding through it and going. But yeah, you do get to the point if you're spending a lot of time in these immersive, submersive worlds where, it's going to repeat on you.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I ended up giving it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, we were pretty close. I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So
it was iconic Mario, and I really enjoyed it. It's just it looped a little bit.
Yep, for sure.
Overall experience, a little frustrating for me right out of the gate. I did learn it. I did get it down. I feel like, especially once I beat Bowser, I felt like, okay, I got this now. And a part of me wanted to continue playing just to
Yep.
check out some of the other puzzles, some of the rest of those worlds that I hadn't fully explored. Didn't, at least not yet.
Sure.
But it's definitely there. I definitely feel the replay value. Now that I understand the controls a little bit more, it seems like it would be a little bit easier to pick it up later. But yeah, very classic Mario. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah, there were a few levels out of the 15 that I really dread playing. Like, I don't want to say they were so tough, but like I don't know. They felt a little flatter than some of the others.
I hated the snow one.
Oh, see, that's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
You're sliding around all over the place,
that.
like you can't control them, and it's cool because it was in other games. Like you get on ice, you're sliding, like it's.
I guess.
But if you really get the controls down, like the slide from the top of the mountain down the hill, I mean, you can get him just a whizzing, you know. Yeah. So some of the other levels, and I can't remember the names of them specifically, but. Like one of the cavern levels where you have the spiders with the big, like, sticky pads that are, the level was so, like, dark, like, from a graphical perspective, like, and dingy, and you're in a cave, it's supposed to be, like, I get that, but I hated grinding through the 8 stars, because I wanted, all of them, but,
I played that level over and over and over again, and I think I only got, like, 3 stars, because it's a huge level.
It is.
And 2, you end up in the same rooms over and over again, and it's like, I don't even know where I'm going.
Exactly.
They try and give you a map, like, hey, look, this is where you're at. Like, I don't know where I've been.
Exactly. Yeah, you get to running in circles. So yeah, some of them I don't enjoy playing, but there's a couple of other ones, and again, I don't remember the name, but there's kind of a hybrid water level where you're on land and you're on boxes, but you're floating in water.
And dry world.
You hit switches to raise and lower the water level. Like, to me, that's like one of the funnest levels to play. It's farther in the game, so you got to work to get to it, but that's a cool level. I mean, from a puzzle feature, that was a lot of fun.
I really liked the ghost house level. That was a lot of fun. The wet dry level was fun. I didn't like the boss levels. They were just straight up platforming.
Yep.
Like, there was no world to even look at. It's just straight up platforming.
Agreed.
Another one that I didn't like, the big small Mario level. That one's really weird.
It's a little weird. Yeah.
It's, because you can change between the 2 worlds, it's like, I don't really know where I'm supposed to be going.
Exactly.
I don't know where the stars are. I think I managed to get 1. I'm like, all right, I'm
done. Yeah, exactly.
I got 1.
Don't need it. Moving on. Yep. No, I agree. For me, and this is, coming from, the days we're at now where, we've waited forever for, Breath of the Wild to come out, another big, open, expansive, true world. This was their attempt at that, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And the very first thing I did when I put the cartridge in, because they had been touting, you can take Mario anywhere. These levels are open world. They're huge. They're, I ran Mario as far as I could get Mario to run to try to find the edge of a map.
Yeah.
And if you do it, like, it honestly doesn't take you that long.
No.
Before you're like, oh, I can't go any further.
Yep.
And the way they rendered things, you're like, oh, there's a lot of stuff out there, but, like, you can never get there. It gets fuzzy and faded and, but it gives you that impression that the worlds are a lot bigger than they are. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of gameplay and a lot of longevity there, but I'm like, oh, it's not as open world as I thought. Like, I can't go anywhere I want to go. Like, I have boundaries, So that was a little disappointing. But for your first true, like, open world, like, can take Mario anywhere I want, I'm not on a particular path. There are no quests. It's literally just running around trying to figure it out. Like, I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You don't have to be forced from left to right or to complete a particular puzzle in a particular order. You can do them in any order you want. And once you get enough stars, like, you can float around between, 5, 6, 7 worlds at a time if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You do have to grind through a little bit in the beginning, but it's kind of like your modern day, tutorial where you got to learn the controls. So you're figuring stuff out in the first couple levels on how to use the camera to your advantage and the different types of moves and butt stomps to squash, Goombas and stuff. So
yeah. You can definitely see that this was a big inspiration for a lot of the future games to come.
Absolutely.
In not just the 64, but future Nintendo games and future gaming as a whole, this game really laid a lot of groundwork for what, 3D adventure. This is really more of an adventure game than it is anything else.
Yeah.
And when I played it, I had played Banjo-Kazooie a few years ago. My first impression was, this is just like Banjo-Kazooie. Well, wait, no, it's the other way around.
It is.
Banjo-Kazooie is just like this game.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, they were cutting their teeth on this one, and, what your point earlier, like, they learned a lot.
Yeah.
As a launch title, I mean, they had time to develop it for sure, but, yeah, future games were definitely improved upon and took this to the next degree.
Right. I really enjoyed this game. I gave it an 8 for an overall.
That's where I was at overall, 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I'm glad that I finally beat it.
Yeah.
I was really happy when it was done.
Sure. I would encourage you to keep your saved game file, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great game to throw in on a rainy day, especially after you've already beat it and now, like, things are unlocked and you have the freedom.
I want.
So for me, like, part of the frustration, I don't even know what category to put it in, but, as I started out, I'm like, oh, crap, like, I have nothing. Like, I'm starting from 0 again. Like, I can't go anywhere I want to go, so now I have to blast through the first 3 levels to get enough stars to start to move around to get to the fun levels that I want to play.
Right. So
now that you've got the ability to roam around, I think the game perspective will probably be a little bit different for you, that, you're not stuck, trudging through some of the stuff that, you've already done, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the puzzles, once you've done them once, it's done.
I would agree.
Like the ghost level is pretty much all a puzzle. And once you've beaten the puzzle, you know where it's at. There's no question about it. It's like, well, that this painting you can go through now.
Yep.
And I don't know. But yeah, definitely replay value is there. And I appreciate that. For a lot of games that I've played just in the podcast, it's not there at all. So yeah, it's been a fun game. I enjoyed this pretty much all the way through, aside from the stinking camera. If you watched any of my streams, I spend so much time just like hating the camera.
Sure.
And I'll get to a point where I'm platforming up and something will hit me. And Mario just like spazzes out, and then I'm trying to control him and jump around, and he's just jumping all over, and he ends up falling off the edge or whatever.
Yeah, I guess we could kind of circle back to that a little bit too. I mean, we can throw it in the overall category, but from a graphics perspective, there are glitches in this game.
I forgot to talk about that.
So from, like a texture mapping, like, and you'd have to look up some YouTube videos, but they've actually exploited some of the glitches to warp you into getting stars way sooner than you should be able to. You walk up next to a wall and the game doesn't necessarily know like how to render you and the wall that close, so the wall like starts blinking and disappears.
Yeah.
And Mario's kind of like having a mini seizure, and then you walk away and it's like, oh, the world's right again, you know? And it's throughout the game in all the levels. Like, depending on where you take Mario, I mean, it's not... I wouldn't say it's not buttery smooth. It absolutely is, but you can definitely make the graphics, like, freak out. Like, if you put him in a weird corner...
Just regular gameplay, I ran into that way too much.
I think some of that's with the camera angle adoption, though, too. You spin the camera in the wrong angle, and it doesn't know how to pan outside the field of view.
Right.
Because the camera would be behind the wall that's outside the scope of, the world, so it freaks.
I think the biggest one that I noticed was every time I landed on a platform right on the edge, he didn't know whether to fall off the edge or to stay on it. So he would just like...
click. And then you'd either fall off. Most of the time, you're falling off.
Yeah, I know.
Because he would like vibrate to the point where he would like shimmy himself off the island. You're like, what?
So bad.
Yeah.
So bad. It's very glitchy at times.
For me, I'm laughing because it's memorable. Like, I fought through that 20 years ago, so... No, I've gotten to the point, though, now where it's like I can grab, like, a cannon, and I know, like, where to shoot myself in the sky so that I'm going to land right in the other cannon. Like, I never even land on the platform. It's just like boom to go. Like, because I spent so many hours as a teenager trying to figure out how to hit the platform, and then it was like, screw hitting the platform. Like, I want to land right in the other cannon. Where do I need the crosshairs to be to, speed this process up? And even, like, from a glitching perspective, like, if you're trying to fall into a, like, cannon hole, for lack of a better term, like a lot of times, like you'll end up grabbing the inside of the wall because he doesn't know, like
he doesn't know that you're trying to fall,
and then you got to hit the release button to fall down.
Yeah.
So it adds to additional glitchiness, if you will.
Yeah, I found the easiest way was to ground pound down into those holes.
You got it.
That was the easiest way.
Yep.
So my total score was a 36 out of 50. You had a 35 out of 50. So it gave us a 71, which is a C.
I'm sad, man. Like, I want to cry. Like, you told me that before we started, and I'm like, what? Like, no, this game's better than that.
Yeah.
I get it, though. The numbers fall where they are, and it does fall flat in a couple categories. I mean,
right.
For me, it fell flat on story, and I think for you, it fell flat on gameplay.
Yeah, a little bit.
So,
Yeah, some of these games that you have a lot of nostalgic value to them, it's so tough to see them, to judge them so harshly. But, I mean, when you're looking at it, and playing them all the way through, some of them just, they were great as a kid when you're not trying to really inspect them with such a microscope,
I'm with you.
Play them through and not really care about, who cares about glitches, who cares about the bad camera. This is the only game you have, you're going to play it till it's dead.
You got it.
So, I totally get that. But I had a lot of fun playing. I haven't played this game before, so it was the first time run through. And anybody who's interested can see it. I have all the gameplay up at zapnight.com. You can go to our YouTube channel and watch everything. That you can see all my fails. And there's a lot of them. I don't know how many lives I went through, but it was way too many.
Yeah, you got to learn to ground pound early, man.
Yeah,
like before you're hitting the ground, like take the hit and then go grab some coins.
It's so many lives wasted. So many Marios dead. So let's talk a little bit about our thrift shop game. We played Nightmare Creatures. And this was a 64 game as well. I bought this at a thrift shop for $6.99, which I think is a little steep.
You're regretting said thrift store purchase?
No, not at all. Just it was a little steep for a thrift shop game. Sure. But I mean, when I'm spending most of the time, I'm spending like maybe $2.99, $3.99, $4.99 max.
Yeah.
Apparently not max, but the 64 games are a little bit harder to come by. So I guess maybe I felt like it was
I don't know.
worth it.
I mean, cartridge games, even the 64 ones, they tend to hold on to value.
They do.
You're not stamping them out like you were CD-based games back in the day, I guess, but, some of the, more popular N64 titles are pretty pricey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So.
This game, it's kind of just a zombie slasher type game. I mean, you're just going around, you start off kind of in a graveyard, and you just are hacking zombies and werewolves and other weird gargoyle creatures. I don't know, it was fun, but I don't know if I could play it all the way through. It was really dark. Like,
it was.
Just the lighting setting was really dark and really hard to see. I actually had to turn off the light to actually be able to see the screen, to see where we were going. The controls were really difficult. The camera sucked, and there was no controlling the camera.
No. And we kind of figured out that you got to ditch the analog stick and use the D-pad to make it work. And once we did that, like, things got better. But the controls still detracted to the point to where, like, I don't think I could make it through the whole game.
We could barely make it through the first couple levels.
Well, and the other thing, too, like, I mean, I don't remember the names of the characters, but we started out with a guy, and we couldn't pick any items up. And the items seemed to really help, like, get rid of the creatures quicker than trying to dispatch them with just your, given weapon. So once we switched over to the female character, like, the game became much easier to play.
Yeah. So the guy had just, like, a staff. And I really think that, or a javelin or something like that.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
I think he kept running into the box that the items were on, and that you couldn't get past it. Where the girl, she had like a dagger or something, and she just would pick up the items, no problem.
Yep.
So once we switched to the girl character, it made the game a little bit easier, and the D-pad made the game a little bit easier. But I don't know. I don't think I could get through this game all the way through.
No, the controls definitely detracted from gameplay for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I don't know. It's a rated mature game. I mean, for a Nintendo title, it was a little gory. I mean, it's Nintendo 64 graphics and such, but, we were cutting people in half, and at one point I think you actually shot one of the
werewolf
monsters' heads off
Yeah.
and it landed, across the map. I'm like, oh wow, did that just happen in a Nintendo game? So
Yeah, there was that was kind of cool.
yeah.
So if anybody's interested, there's our thrift shop game will be up on YouTube. Check us out. Like I said, everything is at zapnight.com. You can see everything we've ever done and everything we're working on currently. Thanks so much, Don, for being on the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Like I don't get a game often. When you ask me to sit in and help out, I'm like, hey, this will be cool. It's the first time I've ever done it, but it was pretty cool. Like playing games, but having to be cognizant of how I was going to score things as I was going through, and it's really the first time I've ever done that, and it was a blast. I had a lot of fun coming over and just reviewing. So,
well, thanks for encouraging me to play Mario 64. I don't think I otherwise would have.
Great title, man. You got to get all those stars.
I know.
You got to go back and do it.
I know.
Grind it out.
I usually do in Mario games too. I wanted to just get this done with. It was that dang camera.
Yeah, and I'm sure it comes through in the way I talk. But I'm a Mario fanboy. Have been for a long time. Got to play the new titles. That's why I've been looking for a Switch.
Yeah.
I got to get a hold of Mario Odyssey when it comes out.
You just gotta hunt them down.
I know, and part with $400.
I know.
Ouch.
I know.
But definitely want to try me some of that new Mario.
Oh yeah, looks like fun.
Yeah.
A little weird, but it looks like fun.
Yeah, the whole merging of the two. Well, yeah, that does look weird, but I'm really interested in, and again, I don't know what level, some of the stuff is still pretty secret squirrel, but they had a video a few weeks, maybe a month back now, where like you walk up to a turret, like in a castle, like a castle tower. Mm-hmm. Mario goes through a tube, and then he becomes a 2D flat version of Mario again.
Really?
That's now like side-scrolling around the side of the castle wall till he gets to the top, and then he comes out 3D again.
Oh.
So it's kind of the merging of 3D and 2D, so there's some side-scroller aspects within the levels that they haven't done before.
Reminds me of that Zelda game that came out not that long ago, where he could like go flat against the wall. I think it was on the 3DS or something.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, it looks like fun. So thanks again. I'm sure that we can get together again here soon and play some more games.
Yeah,
and
for
do
sure.
Some more stuff.
Would love to.
Thanks everybody for listening, and next month we are playing Ukulele. I'm playing that with Lori.
What is that?
That is the Rare developers of Rare.
For sure.
They
Killer Instinct and
Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong Country.
Absolutely.
After they disbanded, they created a separate, I think it's still, I don't know, I don't think it's Rare anymore, but they created their own like little group of developers, and they made a Kickstarter for a game called Ukulele, hence Banjo-Kazooie and Ukulele. It's the same concept of a gameplay, but it's a newer, graphically enhanced.
PC, console?
All.
Oh, really?
It's out for everything. I have it for the PS4, so
I'll look into that.
We'll be playing.
Yeah, nice.
And they made a Kickstarter. They I think they got like 2 million in the first like week or something like that. Yeah, crazy numbers. So yeah, we'll be picking that up throughout next month, and I'm planning on streaming it. I haven't yet, but it should be up. Again, everything is at zapnight.com. If you're interested, check us out, and we will see you guys next month.